Hello, welcome back to Bugle Raps. I'm Martin, and this week it's Wasson. George went to the Unconquerable Invitational in London. Hello, so this week we have George on.
Hello.
So, what have you been up to recently, George?
Most recently, as of recording like a couple of days ago, I got back from the Unconquerable GT, which is run by Zach who runs the UKTC events. So like LGT, Leeds GT, Manchester, Coventry, all the big ones basically in the UK. And he did a new. It was the first time he's done it. So people that have gone to his events previously over the past year, if they've managed to go undefeated at one of those events, they get an Unconquerable award, and they're eligible to be invited to this Unconquerable event that I went to. And luckily last year I managed to go 5-0 at LGT, and I managed to get an invite, and I thought I'd give it a go and see how I got on. And yeah, that's what I've been up to.
Yeah, so basically best of the best for this past year, really.
Yeah, basically, yeah, it was a real like Shark Tank. Like there was a lot of big names in like the ITC rankings all there, and pretty much everyone bringing their A game, trying very hard to win it. And it was a bit of a different format, so there was only 20. I think there was 30 players to begin with, but then we had a few drops, so it ended up being 24. And Zach did a pod system, so he seeded all the players from like 1 to 24, and then according to your seeding, you went into different pods. So I think the way it worked was like seed 1 and 2 would go like it would go like 1, 2, 3, 4, and it would be in separate pods, and then 4, 5, 6, 7 would be in like another pod, and so on and so forth. So you had like in each pod you had like sort of 2 top 10 bracket kind of people, and then 2 sort of bottom bracket kind of people in seedings, to try and mix up the game a bit. And it was a bit odd in the setup. So you had each pod you play. Day one we played like 3 games. You played all the other people in your pod, and then the winner from your pod got through to, on the second day, got put into the top bracket, like the top pod. So so there were 4 pods in total, and then so the winner from each pod went into like the top to vie for to battle out for the top 4 positions in the event. And then like the person who came second in the pod would go into a separate one for day 2, third in the pod, so on and so forth. It was a bit weird. I haven't had it like that, but I kind of see why they did it, and it just meant that if you wanted to get into the top and have a chance of winning the event, you had to at least win your pod, if not try and win all 3 of your games in your pod, which is much easier said than done, considering the caliber of players that are attending, basically. So
yeah, obviously it's like the best of the best. How did you feel about getting invited to it?
Excited to begin with. Like I was, really. I mean, I was interested. I was to test my skills against like some of the sort of top players of the UK/world even. I was very skeptical I would do very well at all. I thought I'd go and get absolutely battered, if I'm honest. So I took a list that wasn't really as cutting edge, I guess, as I could do. I wanted to have a bit of fun and just sort of not really have to think too much. And the list I took sort of relied a bit on dumb luck in a way, because it was double Void Raven, and they're like the most inconsistent unit I've ever come across, where they're either exceptionally amazing and break your opponent's army before you even begin, or they do nothing. So it's like, it just depends like on luck of the dice, basically. But yeah, go on.
Obviously, you took drukhari. Was you the only drukhari player?
No, I wasn't. There was three Archons there. So there was another player called Julio, who's the current top-ranked ITC drukhari player after getting a lot of very good results at several events. And ye old Manny Chima decided to jump on the drukhari bandwagon, and he brought the Get Racked list, which is like 170, 180 racks. But he was using the new Army of Renown, the coteries of the homunculi, which was a bit more interesting. And yeah, he obviously came in and wrecked face with that, basically. So yeah, I wasn't the only drukhari player, and there was another player, Tom, who is part of the 6++ crew from YouTube. So he was running Inari. And I think he may have had a couple of drukhari units in there. I didn't look at his list because I didn't get the honor of playing him. But he had a really cool Inari army. And I think that was pretty much it for the pointy-eared crew. I think everyone else was running Marines, Sisters, Chaos, Knights, both the pointy and the non-pointy variants. Yeah, Necrons and Tyranids were quite abundant as well. So yeah, it was a bit of a mixed field, but not as diverse as I would necessarily like to see. Like there wasn't any orcs.
I wonder why.
Yeah, there wasn't any orcs. The Space Marines, I think the only Space Marines there were was Deathwing, because of the insane durability they have. And the Chaos lists were very much floating around the creations of bile nonsense that's going around, where they just fight all the time, and it's very hard to interact with them.
Well, Saturn Meadow on the go.
Yeah, my friend Dom, he decided, but to be honest, I did persuade him to, because he was going to take drukhari, but for the longest time, he's the base of it, he is a Chaos player. Like that's his biggest army is Chaos, and Chaos are really good right now, in the sense that like Creations of Baal are really good. I actually think Emperor's Children are probably better, and I think that Creations of Baal are going to be probably touched on in the next balance update, and then people will just immediately switch to Emperor's Children and realize that they have a lot of shenanigans. Like they really do. They can really control the pace of the game, with their strats and psychic powers and so forth. So, but yeah, like all in all, it was a pretty good mix. It was nice. It was nice to see Dom and Paulie from Real Space Raiders both went. Paulie went to the sort of sister event to Unconquerable, which is called Beyond Tabletop. So it was a similar precedent in the sense that the only way you could go to that event is if you were nominated for a painting award at one of the UK TC events. So if you had, or if you've been like voted best painted, or if you've been one of the runner-ups or something, then you got to go to this Beyond Tabletop. And Paulie, having been voted probably a couple of times, to be honest, for a painting award, because his army's absolutely gorgeous, got an invite to that. So even though he wasn't in the Unconquerable event with me, we managed to catch up quite a bit over the weekend. So that was really nice. And Dom was in the Unconquerable, because I think he went undefeated at Coventry or something. But it was one of those ones where technically he was undefeated, although he didn't win all his games, because he had this fluky occurrence of like winning 4 games and drawing the other 2, and ended up like 3rd overall or something. So yeah, technically undefeated, and he got an invite to this. But then he did go and win like a Twisted Warp GT as well. So he had more than enough experience to be there.
But do you want to give us a quick overview of what your list was for the event?
Yeah, I can do. So let me just find it quickly. So as with all my lists, I always like to name it something poetic that I find easy to remember. So this one involved. Sorry.
Off Meta George.
Yeah. So this one involved a double Void Raven because I wanted to challenge myself. I don't know. It was kind of like Void Ravens are really weird. They're nowhere near like cutting edge meta. Because they're so inconsistent. Like if you want a decent army list, you need to build as much consistency and redundancy into your army list as possible. And Void Ravens don't do either of that because they're inconsistent and they don't they have no redundancy because there's only 2 of them. You can't hide them. They're quite easy to kill, but they can, if you roll like ridiculous, just end a game straight away pretty much because they can just spike really, really hard on their mortal wounds.
Yeah.
And that's really nasty. So the list is called Nevermore because it had 2 ravens in it. So for those poets amongst you, you might realize the reference. So it was a triple patrol for the raiding forces. So it was a patrol of Cabal of the Black Heart. I had a small Court of the Archon in that, which had like 2 Slith and 4 Urgle. They were just my backfield like objective holders, but because there were 6 of them, they could also do a rod like consistently in like one of my table quarters. I had an Ancient Evil Archon with a Venom Blade and the Animus Vitae Relic, which is the 1-use only grenade. But if I hit something, it boosts my power from pain table for a turn, which can be useful for catching people off guard with turn 1 charges and stuff like that, and just making me activate just that little bit earlier. A unit of warriors that just as they come, I spent my 1 CP I started the game with. They would go in the webway and just come down later in the game to do a rod or grab an objective if it was available, or score me engage, or preferably all of the above if I had the opportunity. I had in total across my patrols, I had 3 units of incubi and a unit of mandrakes, a 6-man unit of mandrakes, again for the forward deploy and for the ability to rod in usually 2 table quarters. Like 1 mandrake unit can usually do 2 quarters unless they get killed, because they can rod in 1 quarter, then disappear and deep strike in another quarter and rod there, so they're very good for that. I then had 2 Void Raven bombers with Void Lances, which are Strength 9 Dark Lances, so they're 1 shot each, Strength 9 AP 4 and D3+3 damage. And because they're Black Heart, obviously I get to re-roll one of my hit rolls. So if I miss with one of them, it just makes them a little bit more consistent in their firepower. Then I had a Coven patrol, and I used custom Coven. So I used Dark Technomancers because I thought Dom's not going to use Dark Technomancers, despite being called Dark Techno Dom. So I thought I've got to do it. So I brought back the Dark Technomancers for a bit of a giggle and to try something a bit different. I had Drazar as my warlord because he's incredible. He's an absolute weapon and was probably my MVP in every single game because he's just so consistent at that wrecking face, basically. So I had 3 units of racks, just 5-man units. In each one, I had an ossifactor, which is the bone gun. It's a 24-inch range, 1 shot, but it's poison 2 plus AP 3 and 2 damage. But with Dark Technomancers, obviously I can overcharge it and then it becomes damage 3. The +1 to wound doesn't affect the poison, but there were a few occurrences during my games where I would try my chances at shooting a vehicle of some kind, and having that +1 to wound on a strength 3 gun means I'm wounding them on 5s rather than 6s. And it's AP 3 and damage 3. So if it goes through, it hits reasonably hard. I then had a Hex rifle on the Akathis, which is a sniper rifle. That's 1 shot, strength 6, AP 2, and damage 2. And it causes an additional mortal on a 6. But obviously, again, Dark Technomancers, I can overcharge that to give it +1 to wound, which means I'm wounding most characters in the game on 2s at that point because it's strength 6. And it becomes damage 3 again. So if it does go through, it can really hurt. And there was actually one scenario where I basically 1-shot an Inquisitor with it by rolling a 6 on the to wound, and it just went like, so that was really satisfying. The Akathis as well are armed with Electrocorrosive Whips, which are just agonizers, so poison 4+ weapons, but they get more attacks with them. Very good 5-point upgrade. I had in that Dark Technomancer patrol, I had 4 raiders, all with disintegrators. Again, because of the Dark Technomancer, I can overcharge them. So my disintegrators go from being 3 shots at strength 5, AP 3, and damage 2 to 3 shots at strength 5, AP 3, and damage 3 with +1 to wound. So yeah, so it's really good, particularly against there's a lot of T5, T4 multi-wound models flying around at the moment. Like Chaos use a lot of them, Necrons use a lot of them, Tyranids use a lot of them as well, with Tyranid warriors being 3 wounds each. I know obviously most of them will be transhumans, but I'd still rather have a disintegrator that one-shots a warrior at AP 3 means if he hasn't got his invulnerable save up, then he's going to lose the warrior, basically. So, yeah, so that was that. And then my custom Witch Cult patrol with precision blows and test of skill. So precision blows is my blade artists goes off on a 5 rather than a 6, so I get additional 1 AP on 5s to wound rather than 6s to wound.
Nice.
Which is really good, and it stacks really well with a 10-man unit of Blood Brides that I had in my list. For those of you who don't know, Blood Brides are like the upgraded witches. They when their blade artists goes off, they become AP 4 rather than AP 2. So it just slices through armor like really easily. And obviously because of precision blows, they're going off on 5s and 6s rather than just 6s. So it makes them a lot more consistent with like high volume, high AP attacks, but low damage.
Yeah.
And with test of skill as well, like you can quite comfortably charge Blood Brides into pretty much any vehicle and know they're going to do a bit of damage because they're wounding like most vehicles that aren't T8 or more on 4s with like 40 attacks. So you can really like whittle things down with that. I have a Succubus, where usual loadout, Triptych Whip, precision blows. Everyone hates her. I love her. She's amazing. Yeah, she is something nasty. I made her a Master Succubus so I can do my 6-inch consolidation move away from combat if I want to. And then to finish off the list, I had 2 units of 3-man Reaver Jet bikes with the Hypex drug to make them a little bit faster because 28-inch move on a 3-man unit to score engage or behind enemy lines for 60 points is really good. And they're really good at move blocking as well. Certain armies, they can just park up in front of you turn 1, and it just makes it annoying for you to move forward because you've got to kill the Reavers before you can move forward. And that's the list. It was like 2,000 points on the nose. I start the game with 1 CP, but I spend that usually to put the things in the webway. I think it's 2 CP actually, but I don't know. I can't remember. But yeah, I spend CP to put warriors in the webway. Yeah, that was the list.
Okay, so that's your army list.
Yep.
But going into it, like, did you travel up from the day of the event, or did you stay up there for the weekend, or?
So I went. I stayed at Dom's flat. He lives in St Albans, which is just like a 30-minute drive away from Wembley, where the venue was. So I drove up on the Friday up to his place, stayed at his house over the weekend, and we just travelled back and forth between the venue on the Saturday and the Sunday. So yeah, but it's the first time I've gone to an event up country on my own.
Oh, you had new Paddy backing you up, did you?
He unfortunately didn't qualify, and I thought I'm probably not going to get an opportunity to go back to this one, so I've got to go for it.
So obviously, game 1.
Game 1, I got thrown right in at the deep end. So game 1 was against a player who some of your viewers may know as David Gaylard. So for those of you who don't know who David Gaylard is, in the ITC currently, he is number 1 rank in the entire world. Of all the players that play in like ranked events, he is numero uno. He has been using Tyranids, particularly Leviathan Tyranids, since they came out and broke the game, and has been doing very well with them. Has been winning lots of big events, lots of super majors, placing very highly at other ones, and has just decimated the rankings basically.
Yeah.
So I was not optimistic.
Obviously, how many days before the event did you find out you was facing them? Because I
Almost,
threw.
yeah, it was almost a week. I think it was like 4 or 5 days. And
We all spoke about it as well there. Because
yeah,
it's a bit like fucking hell. Number one, there we go.
yeah, most recently, like with my mental health issues and my anxiety and stuff like that, it gets the better of me sometimes, and I was not looking forward to this game. I was thinking I'm just going to go, and I don't really know why, because I mean, at the end of the day, what's the worst that can happen? Like, you go, he beats you, you call it a day, you shake hands, you go your separate ways, that's it. But yeah, for some reason, I don't know, like my anxiety was getting the better of me. I thought, great, I've got the number one player in the world, and he's got prep time on my list because he knows my list, and he's probably got resources that I don't have, like friends that have got gaming tables or clubs or whatever that he can play test, and will go into the game probably knowing exactly what he needs to do to completely wipe the floor with me. But
you had all us backing you up, don't we?
yeah, I had all of you. You were all very supportive. You guys at Bugle, like Dom and Paulie, and some of the guys at Cross Swords in Plymouth as well. They were all going, "No, you got this. You can do it. Like, imagine if you beat him, it'll be amazing." And some of the guys at the tournament as well, before the game began, they were wishing me luck. Manny messaged me on Facebook and stuff saying he's rooting for me to beat him. But yeah, so we went into the game. I can't remember the mission, Martin, if I'm honest. I forgot to take notes. It was one of the five objective missions in the cross formation. So there's like one in the middle of each like table quarter at the where the tiles split, and one in the very center of the mission.
What did you get points for doing?
Say again.
What was the points scoring on it for the secondary part?
Hang on, mate. Let me find my. Oh, there it is. It was.
Death and Zeal, conversion, or
Death and Zeal was later on. This one was Abandoned Sanctuaries.
Ah, okay. So no.
Yeah, one where you can't forward deploy.
Yeah. Holding and controlling, killing off the center, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hold the middle and kill things off the center.
Yeah, hold the middle and kill things in the middle. So yeah, David's list was I would say pretty typical, really. Leviathan Tyrannid nonsense. So
warriors.
Yeah, there were two big blobs of 9 warriors with venom cannons, bone swords, adrenal glands, death spitters, like yeah, all that jank. A squad of 5 warriors with I think he just had death spitters and 1 venom cannon there. He had a couple of a zone throat brood, a couple of neurothropes, one of which was upgraded to have a warlord trait that made it objective secured.
Oh, okay.
He had a venom throat brood to give things -1 to hit against shooting. The Reaper of Obliterax hive tyrant that just deletes basically anyone it touches. And the harpies, 2 harpies with the Stranglethorn cannons. Yeah, like the best flyer in the game by a huge margin. Yeah, it was typical Leviathan list. I have actually faced Leviathan quite a few. Yeah, I faced it at Curtin. I faced it. I've faced it a few times now, actually. To be honest, I faced it around a friend's house up here in Plymouth. And it's always a really tough game because their durability and their damage output is like very, very, very good. But having said that, he did have a weakness in his list in the sense that he wasn't actually particularly fast. Outside of the Flying Hive Tyrant and the Harpies, he wasn't actually that fast. And the missions that he chose were, I think he chose Raise Banners, Grind Them Down, and Warp Ritual, which is the one where you cast powers in the middle. Because obviously it's fighting over the middle anyway, because you get extra points for killing stuff in the middle, so on and so forth. So
Banners is an interesting one on that mission.
Say again.
Banners is an interesting one.
I think it was Banners. I might be getting it wrong, mate. Honestly, it may have been Banners or it may have been something else. I can't really remember. It was definitely Warp Ritual, and it was definitely Grind Them Down. Oh, it may have been Bring It Down as well. Actually, it may have been Bring It Down. But I don't know if you can take Grind and Bring.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it may have been Bring It Down because my list gave up 12 on Bring It Down. So it may have been Bring It Down as well. So but yeah, the game was really, really tight. I don't really want to bore everyone with like all the details because it's like it just gets too long, to be honest, and I can't remember all of it. But long story short, my game plan was I took Herd the Prey because he wasn't particularly fast, so I thought I could probably get 1 to 2 points on that every turn. And I took retrieve Nephilim data because my list is kind of designed to do retrieve Nephilim data. And I took, I think I took, what is it? It's Herd, Retrieve, and I'll Take Them Alive. So Take Them Alive is a drukhari one. I get a kill point for killing a unit in melee. If it was a monster or a character, I get 3 points, and I can score up to 5 a turn on it. Yeah. So obviously he had quite a few characters in his list because he had a Tyrannid Prime, a Hive Tyrant, and 2 Neurothropes. And obviously then he had monsters being the Hive Tyrant and the 2 Harpies. Now, there wasn't really any way I was going to kill the Harpies in melee because they fly. And with my list, I don't have any combat fly, believe it or not, because I obviously like to torture myself. So even though my list has copious amounts of decent combat with fly, I just don't put it in my list for some stupid reason. But yeah, the game ended. It went all the way to turn 5, and it started off like Dave was really polite, very quick, very thorough, very methodical. But towards the end of sort of going into turn 4, 5, it started to go a bit like negative. I felt it started to go a bit like salty, and like things were starting to get a bit heated with discussions on like ranges, line of sights, roles, rules, all that. And it started off okay, and then towards the end of the game, I think when David realized that he might not win, it became a bit more negative, and I can't say, in all honesty, I can't say I enjoyed it. I think it put a bit of a negative spin on the whole day, really, if not the whole weekend. Because there was a predicament in the final turn with one of my bombers that was on his home objective in the middle of the board, sort of facing more or less towards his corner. And he had a unit of Zoanthropes that he asked me what my minimum movement was on the bomber, which I said was 20 because it was still on its top bracket. And he said, okay, so if I move my Zoanthropes here, do you agree that you can't move here? And I said, yes, I can't move there. And that was it. And then he carried on his turn. He dealt some damage. He scored his points. And I thought that was it. But then in my turn, I pivoted the Void Raven and moved sort of 40 odd inches because it's got a maximum move of 60 into my table quarter. And that didn't make David happy. David got a bit annoyed with that because he thought that I agreed that by him moving the Zoanthropes there that I would have to fly the bomber off the board, but I never agreed to that because I knew I could just pivot it and move it over his Zoanthropes to my side of the board. There's a bit of a miscommunication. I don't really know what happened, but Dave got really pissed, really annoyed, and then he got the TO involved, got Zach involved, who couldn't really do anything because it was just a miscommunication. So but the game ended with a score, believe it or not, of 70 points to David and 74 points to this guy. So
well done, George.
Yeah, I don't really know. I think I got a little bit lucky with the Void Raven bombers. I managed to one-shot his Neurothrope with the objective secured warlord trait.
Yeah.
So I rolled a natural 5 on the bomber. So as it flew over it, I went 5 and 5 because you hit characters on 5. So, but I managed to one-shot the Neurothrope. But that was about the most damage it did. Really, the bombers, they didn't do a lot, and the rest of the game they were just kind of flying around, taking pot shots at warriors. That's about it, really. But the main fight was in the middle, and once I think David procced his invulnerable save on the first turn, which in hindsight, I think actually that was a bit of a waste. Like I don't know what other psychic or whatever synaptic imperatives he has in his 2-3 meant that when I did hit him, all of my high AP attacks are just cutting through his armor. So that may have been a bit of a mistake on his part, but I'm sure he had a plan. But unfortunately, this time it didn't quite work out for him.
Yeah.
And I managed to get a win first game against numero uno, which was
very good.
Yeah, very good. It was very surprising, and I think it upset the apple cart a bit of the event because everyone was like, "What?"
Sure, it did.
Yeah.
When you said about that bad communication, it going a bit off. Obviously, this is like a big event. Everyone's there who wants these sort of players there want to win it, obviously.
So I think that's the overall.
And they can win it. Obviously, upsets people a little bit at that level. Obviously, do they?
Yeah.
Emotions get dragged in.
Yeah, I mean, I may have been at fault a little bit. I don't know. He was. We were talking about not the rule, but like the playing by intent thing that you hear about a lot in competitive 40k. How rather than like accurately measure like distances and things, you say, my intent is I want to be 2 inches away from this wall, so then you can't charge me through the wall. That kind of thing. But like there's a line, and I was trying to explain to David that like, there's a line between like intent to do something and the actual ability to do something. So I understood that his intention was to move block my bomber with his 3 zone throats, but like it's 3 models, and there was like you can't block off an entire table quarter with 3 models. Like well, if anything, it was an entire table half with 3 models. Like I understand that's your intention, but it's not like physically possible to do it. So
would you not think that like where he is in the world, obviously being number 1, he should know what Fire's ability can do?
Yeah.
I know what Fire can do, and I'm not fucking that good.
No, but
it's a rare thing. Aircraft is a common unit in the table.
I mean, it may have been a miscommunication. Like when he asked me what the minimum movement was, so I told him my minimum movement. I didn't tell him what my maximum movement was because he didn't ask, so I didn't think it mattered. But ultimately, like your job as a player is to be honest, but not tell them what you're intending to do, because that way you're like,
this is how you're going to win the game.
Like I'm not going to go there and say like, right, next turn I'm going to do this, and this, and then he's going to know exactly what I'm going to do and able to give him the opportunity to counter. Like that's just not the way the game works. So no. So yeah, that was game 1, which was a great start competitively because I won my game against what was one of the favourites to win the event. But I came away from it feeling very disheartened, very kind of like it wasn't in the spirit of the game that I'm used to. It was
I know what you mean.
So that wasn't great. But then I had a great game 2 against a lovely bloke called Carl Grundy, who works for VT, Vanguard Tactics. And he brought my least favorite army in the entire universe, the Tau Empire. And he had a gorgeous list. I mean, it was a spectacular list and very innovative. I think it's fair to say that Kyle is to Tau in a similar way, like sort of tooting my own trumpet in a similar way that I am to drukhari, where that's his army and that's just what he plays.
He's a very recognized Tau community. I know that.
Yeah, and he knows it inside out, and he quite often like looks at what other Tau players are doing and then says, right, that's fine, you do that, I'm going to try something different. And this list was quite different. So it involved 2 Sunshark bombers, 2 Riptides, a Crisis Suit team. There's a Long Strike, a Hammerhead, 3 units of Crute, which I love, and a few other bits and bobs. I can't remember what, but long story, like, I don't even want to. This game was over from turn 1. Like, literally, it was. If I had any chance against this list, it was to go first.
Yeah.
I didn't go first. So, and I lost. You could probably see it on stream. I'll try and find the link to give to you guys. It's not the most entertaining game in the world. I had a laugh playing it because Carl was such a nice guy and the dice were just so crazy that you kind of think like, well, whatever. Like, there was nothing I could have done. I deployed pretty well. I needed to go first. Like, and if I didn't go first, I knew it was going to be almost impossible for me to come back from the punch that the Tau can give. And that turned out to be true. So like turn 1, I lost like both bombers, 2 raiders, some of the guys inside the raiders. Kyle just moved up board position but pre-measured everything, so like I wouldn't be able to charge anything without some like exceptional luck or anything. Played really well, played really strong. Target priority was on point. I think the nail in the coffin for me was when my succubus tried to charge a hammerhead, and he overwatched just because he had spare CP, and he rolled a 6 on the railgun, which was lovely. So thanks for that, Kyle. That still stings. I think that's going to sting for the rest of my 40k life. So yeah, it was a good game. Kyle's a lovely bloke, and I'd love to play him again. But that was I think I scored 29 points in that, which is I think the lowest score I've ever got. And at the end of the game, I killed a grand total of 10 Crute and 1 bomber. Which was just nuts. Like, yeah, that was not a good game for me.
I remember it popping up on stream when I was tuned in and watched it.
Yeah,
and like, as I tuned in, there was literally like a good bit of sportsmanship. I seen you being happy as well. And like a raider disembarking the incubi.
Yeah.
And he was like, "You come back. This goes here." And I seen like how you two was playing. I was like, "Oh, George seems happy considering this."
Yeah, the way that Kyle played, and like that to me is what like play by intent is like, because like obviously there's no hard and fast rule of like take back moves, but like with that like raider situation, like I'd already moved the raider, even though I disembarked things from it. But then I was like, I got to my incubi and I realized, oh, actually no, I wanted to put them in the raider to get them up the board a little bit, because otherwise they're just going to walk.
They disembark, they embark.
Yeah, so I just spoke to Cars. I looked at Cars. Okay, I'm not going to move the models, but obviously my raider was here. Like my incubi were only like 5 inches away, and they only need to get within 3 of the raider to embark upon it. So can I just say they embarked before my raider moved, and he was fine about it.
Yeah, I remember him saying like, "Yeah, it's fine. It's just an order of the events."
Yeah, it's just an order of process. It's similar to like how, like if you're bringing in reserves, for instance, like it's meant to be done at like the end of your movement phase.
Yeah. But we all just bear down to they will be there.
Yeah, like so. But if I put my mandrakes down, I go like, well, this is where I'm going to put them, but I've still got my other stuff to move.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't do any harm. Like obviously, rules as written, you could have some player that would go, "Oh no, that's the end of your movement phase. Now you got to go into your psychic phase." I'm like, well, that's just an ass move. Like if you do stuff like that,
people flip.
Yeah, I'll just be like, yeah, all right, see you later, bye. Like there's that's what I think like the play by intent is like, and it honors the number 1 rule of the game, which is to have fun, like to try and enjoy it. It's a really complicated game as it is. Like no one's going to remember everything, like even at that level of play. But yeah, as I said, lovely bloke. I would love to play card again with a list that is actually good. Like not his list. His list was awesome. My list was rubbish. Like it was not designed for that kind of matchup. But yeah, that was a good game.
Obviously, during the week before it, I'm in the Tau Facebook group. Yeah. I've seen everyone like asking about his list, like questioning it and stuff. Yeah. And he's trying to like, not give too much away, but
no, it was a really, really good list. The bombers are very, very, very good. The Sun Shark bombers, I think they are on par with Harpies. Not in so much the damage output, although their damage output is very good, particularly into drukhari. They have loads of like strength 6, strength 7 attacks with like 2 to 3 damage because of I think they're ion rifles or something. They can bomb a unit every turn. So whereas my Void Urban bombers can bomb once a game, they just bomb a unit every turn, and it's like they roll a d6 for each model that's in the unit up to 10, and on a 4+ they take a mortal. And if it's like if it's a monster or a vehicle that they're flying over, they roll like 6d6, and on 4s they take mortal wounds. But the real icing on the cake on those Sunshot bombers and the things to look out for is they can detach. They've got 2 drones, and they can detach the drones in the command phase. So he did it to me. It didn't make any difference to the game, but it can catch people out. So he can obviously fly the flyer over. If it survives the turn, then in his command phase, he can detach the drones to just go onto an objective. But then at the end of his command phase, he then tallies up how many objectives he's on to score primary. So those 2 drones can steal him or contest primary, which is huge. Like, that's a really, really good tactical play. Other than that, it was really nice to see Riptides back, and they rinse drukhari, like rinse me. And the hammerheads are hammerheads. Like, I mean, railguns are still nasty. And he literally just went pop for the Void Raven bombers. Like, long strike shot one, and then the other hammerhead shot the other bomber, and then the Riptides tore my raiders apart. And it was it's a good list. Yeah, I said I'd happily play that again, but not with that list. That list sucked. I'd definitely give him a better run for his money with a better list.
So on to the last game of day one?
Last game, day one. I played against a guy called Ben Pritchard, who I have heard of, but I didn't know much about him. But he was a really nice guy, and it was a really close game, really close game. He was running Deathwing, Dark Angels, which are my least favorite loyalist faction. But Deathwing are very good. They are extremely tough. So it was a bit like facing the Leviathan Nids again, with the transhuman everywhere.
Is this just like 30 Terminators or something stupid? Or
basically, yeah, it was 1 squad of knights, like with the hammer, with the shields and the maces. It was 2 squads of 10. It may have even been 3 squads of 10. I can't remember. It was a lot. I can probably get his list out, to be honest. But he combat squadded 2 of the squads to give him 5 mans, and then he had a bunch of characters. He had Azrael. He had I just remember that bloody apothecary. An apothecary on bike, which would not die. Like, I threw ridiculous amounts into that apothecary, and he still survived the entire game. It was ridiculous. But so what did he have? He had Ben. So yeah, he had
the -1 damage.
The what? Sorry.
Is it the Ancient give the -1 damage as well?
Oh yeah. Blade Guard Ancient with a banner and a relic. I think he gave something -1 damage. He had Ezekiel, the Librarian, Azrael, a Deathwing Terminator squad with like chain fists everywhere. Another Deathwing Terminator squad with chain fists everywhere. Another Deathwing Terminator squad with chain fists everywhere. A Ravenwing Apothecary, and then a Terminator Assault squad with Thunderhammers and lightning, with like 5 Thunderhammers and 5 Lightning Claws. So yeah, like 40 Terminators. Which was lovely. but yeah, no, taken away from Ben, he definitely knew how to play, and I made a few mistakes in this list where I gave him some charges that I shouldn't really have given him. And he made, to be fair, they were like sort of 9-10 inch charges, but I didn't necessarily have to give him that opportunity to charge. I could have kept them like over 12 inches away, so it was no chance of him getting a charge. But on several occasions he made the charge. And I whiff rolled severely with Drazar and my Incubi to punch into him. I think like with one of his blobs of Terminators that weren't -1 damage, I hit them with Drazar and an Incubi squad, and I killed like 4 Terminators, which was like, that's just ridiculous. And to put it into context, like viewers, the Drazar went off later in the game. He just left combat and went and killed 5 Terminators on his own, like with the first swing. So like the fact that I had 10 attacks into this Terminator plus like 16 Incubi attacks, and I only killed 4 Terminators was like
Okay.
Okay. And I said that the apothecary was his MVP, I think, because he just wouldn't die. I hit him with so much shots. Because he
Selfless healer.
yeah, well, he positioned them really badly, and I managed to shoot him with 2 raiders and both my void ravens. So that was like 2 overcharged disintegrators plus the racks inside shooting him, and my 4 void lances, and I didn't kill him. Like, I was just like, oh, it's crazy. And I think I attacked him with some witches or something. I took him down to 1 wound at one point, but he just kept healing himself and surviving. And yeah, he was a pain in the bum. But I did manage to win the game in the end. So I managed to get a big swing. He did a secret secondary thing. Like, there was a stratagem that Dark Angels can use where they hide one of their secondary missions from you.
Until they score it, is it? Or
yeah, so the secondary mission he hid that he revealed after he killed her was to kill my succubus. So if it was like, if they kill if they kill the character, they get like 3 points. If they kill it in melee, they get like another 3 points or something. And if they kill it with an inner circle unit, they get like another 3 points. Everything in the army's in a circle, so they got like 9 straight away. And then if the unit that killed the character survives the end of the game, they get another 6 points, so they got to 15 if they get it. So so he killed my succubus, and then he revealed it and was like, I get 9 points for that. I was like, ouch, that hurts. But the unit that killed her was one that she charged, so she managed to kill, like, I think about 3 Terminators from that squad. So there was only like 3 left at that point. And then the next turn, my Void Ravens flew over and shot everything into that 3-man Terminator squad to deny him the 6 points on that secondary. Finished them off, and then he had his other secondary was the one where they just got to sit on an objective, and they get like one point for holding it for a turn, and then like 2, 3, so on and so forth. So he had one of his combat squad Terminators on one of those objectives, and that was the 5-man unit that Jazar ran and killed after like the 3rd turn of them holding it. So it denied him the secondary on that as well.
Yeah, okay, reset then back to the start of it.
Yeah, so they've got to hold it for consecutive turns. So that was what I think won me the game, was I managed to deny him on his secondaries. And we were pretty much even on primary, I think, because everything is obsec for him and really hard to remove, but isn't necessarily fast. So I had 2 objectives like either end of the board that he couldn't really get to very easily. So we were just doing 8, 8, 8 on the primary every turn. Yeah, that was it. So end of day 1.
Obviously, you faced Dark Angels in the Battle Bugle finale recently.
Yeah. So I was feeling quite confident about that game, if I'm honest. I was thinking, oh, I can do this. I know after facing Martin, I know how to tackle lots of Deathwing. But as I said, like I whiff rolled on a few occasions, and Ben was a very good player. Not taking away from Martin. Like, Martin, you're a great player. Love you, dude. But Ben made some really good decisions for combat priority and stuff. So, and I think there was a bit of luck on both our sides, dice wise. So it was a good game. Like, so Ben's a great player. So nothing bad to say about it really, other than I would have liked to have killed more.
So end of day 1, 2 wins, 1 losses.
2 wins, 1 loss. Yeah. So I finished 2nd in my bracket because Kyle, the Tau player, won all 3 of his games. I think. I think he won all 3 of his games, or did he? Oh, he may have. No, I think he lost that. No, he lost against David. Actually, he lost against David's Tyranids, but not. But he won a lot higher than I did, so his overall score was higher than mine. So he was on 2 and 1, and I was on 2 and 1, I think, and so he went into the top pod in day 2, which involved him, Manny Chima with his Get Racked list, and Julio with his Drukhari finished top of his pod, and Andrew Bourbon, I think, finished on top of his pod with his Imperial Knight list. So they went into battle it out for the final top 4 positions, and I went into the 2nd pod with was it a 3rd pod, 2nd or 3rd pod, can't remember, but with a couple of other players. So there was James Marsden, who is a quite well-known Necron player, Very, very good.
Last
Say
year.
again.
Smashed me last year.
Did he?
I faced some Orcs up near Nottingham.
Oh, nice. And he smashed you, did he?
Yeah.
Oh.
I
So
think
you'd be
he's
pleased to know that I faced James in.
Beachhead as well.
You faced him at Beachhead as well, did you?
Paddy faced him at Beachhead and
Yeah.
lost.
No. Oh, well, I happily say, spoiler alert, I avenged you both. So he did not have a lucky game, unfortunately. James, it's fair to say. He had a gorgeous list, like a really, really, really strong Necron list, and he definitely knew how to use it. Even though he was on the back foot from turn 1, he still scored very well and killed a lot of my stuff. But my Void Raven bombers in this game went completely and utterly nuts. Like the most skewed I think I've ever rolled with them. And it pretty much ended the game like turn 1 movement because I got the first turn. But he divided his forces into like 2 blobs. So in one blob he had, in the middle of the board, he had a Chronomancer, a unit of 5 Immortals, a unit of 3 Tomb Blades, a couple of the bucket droids, the Crypto Thralls, yes, and both his Catan shards. So he had the Void Dragon and the Nightbringer. And then on his right flank, so my left flank, he had another blob behind his big L terrain, and he had the King. He had another unit of 3 Tomb Blades. He had another unit of 5 Immortals, his 6 Destroyers, and the Technomancer with the Veil of Darkness relic. So the idea of the list is basically the Veil of Darkness is the Destroyers to get a decent line of sight on something and just goes and kills it. And the King does his thing, and the secondary scoring game is incredible.
Easy Necrons.
Yeah, it's very, very good. But my rolling was like godlike in this game for the bombers. So I flew over the first blob, which was where the Catan shards were in the middle, and I hit both Catan shards and got 3 or more on both of them. So they both took their 3 wounds for the phase, which is the moving phase. I then hit the Immortals and I rolled a 5, so I killed all 5 Immortals. I then hit the Tomb Blades and got a 6, so I killed all 3 Tomb Blades. And then I missed so all that was left there was, so I killed the Immortals, I killed the Tomb Blades, and I took 3 wounds off each of the Catan shards. That was just one bomber. So the second bomber went over the other blob, and I hit the King, took 2 wounds off him. I hit the Destroyers and took, I think, a couple of wounds off the Destroyers. I hit the Tomb Blades there and got another 6 and picked up all 3 Tomb Blades. And I hit most importantly, I hit the Technomancer and got a 5 and killed the Technomancer. And then he used the stratagem to try and revive the Technomancer, 4 up, and failed. So the Technomancer was dead.
Oh dear.
Yeah, it was really bad. I felt awful. And James, I don't know if you will watch this, but if you do, I'm so sorry. I still feel terrible about it. Yeah, it was, and that was, I mean,
when something like that happens, turn 1 is.
If that happens turn 1, I don't care who you are as a player. That's your list gutted, like almost completely and utterly. To kill like 4 units like with 2 bombers is mental. Like I know mathematically it's possible to do it, but literally any other result he could have recovered from, because like with the Tomb Blades, for instance, if I rolled a 5 rather than a 6, I would have killed 2 Tomb Blades and then left 1 on 1 wound. But then he heals 1 for 1 wound, and he can also revive them with the Technomancer. And it was just really, really, really skewed rolling on my part. There was no skill involved like at all. That was just dumb luck. And
Captain 6 up.
Yeah, like Captain 6 up. So and from then it was a really, really uphill battle for James to do anything. But even then, he still scored really well, and I think the game ended with a 90-ish score for me. But James still managed like 60 something or 70 something, even though he had basically nothing left. But he could just max his secondaries so easily. The main thing was because it was a 6 objective mission, he just didn't have enough units to hold the primary. without using like his Catan shards and stuff. And then if you're leaving Catan shards on objectives, like you just it's a waste of a Catan shard. So yeah, so that was a bit of a brutal game. And James was a lovely bloke, and again, I'd love to face him again. That was, I think, if it was roles reversed, like if he went first, I think I would have been off the board. It would be similar. I would have thought it would have been similar to the Tau game, if I'm honest, because the firepower that this puts out is insane. And normally its durability is crazy, unless you've got really hot. Yeah,
I first turn on with the old buggy list with the planes.
Yeah.
Shot everything at King. Did he nothing?
Yeah. He's a tough cookie. But yeah, but that was it. And then yeah, so I won my first game, and then I went into my last game, which was against a guy called Jamie Bulcum, I want to say, or Buscum, can't remember. Jamie. He played a Imperium list, so mostly Custodes. But he had a Inquisitor in there, and he had a allied detachment of 2 Wyverns, is it? The ones with the autocannons, like the armigers with the autocannons? Helverins, that's the one, thank you. So yeah, 2 of them in his list, which are like massively anti-drukhari, like they just rip raiders in 2 without even blinking. And yeah, and unfortunately, I can't honestly say I enjoyed this game. I felt like this was not the way I like to play 40k. It was very clock oriented, and the clock was very used. I guess Jamie would like use the clock a lot and switch the time back to me during his turns when I was making like the odd save here and there, but then I'd forget to switch it back to him, which I guess is my fault. But like if you're only rolling 1 save, it's like, yeah, it's just easy to do. And often during my turns there'd be a lot of discussion and debate about line of sights and measurements and dice rolls, which just burnt my time down. And I think that despite his list being good and he played like reasonably well, I still feel like that game was mine to lose, and I ended up losing it. But I didn't really think like I did anything wrong other than maybe chose the attacker defender wrong and allowed him to move because it was the priority mission objective, so it was like you had to move the objectives. So I maybe gave him a slight advantage on the way that he moved the objectives after me, and made it easy for him to contest it. But I had a plan for that, and I had a counter to it, but my counters didn't work because he rolled an ungodly amount of 4+ saves. Like I've never come across anything like it in my life, to the point where I was actually tempted to get his dice tested, because I've never seen it. I've never seen it. It was so many situations, like 5 incubi charging 2 custodians on an objective, and one of them only had 1 wound left because I shot them, and I failed to kill them. He saved, I think I wounded them like 13 times. A few of them were 6s, so they would have killed a custodian outright, and he passed all of them but 2. Then that secured him. It stopped me from getting my priority objective, and it scored him another 4 on his primary. So that was like a 7-point swing, which is huge. There's another situation where like a 2 wounded custodian captain on a bike got charged by Jazar. I hit and wounded him all 10 times with Jazar, and he passed all 10 4-up invols. Just 10 out of 10. Just went, there you go. I needed 1 of them to go through to kill him, which would have got me again primary. It would have denied him primary, and it would have got me 3 points on assassinate. So again, that was another 4. That was another 7-point swing because he just rolled 4-ups. My Blood Brides charged one of his dreadnoughts and did like 20, 24, 25 successful wounds against the dreadnought because I wounded it on 4s. And like 2/3 of those would have been AP4, which would have knocked him to his 5-up invul. And I only just did 9 wounds. And he tried to CP reroll one of them to save the dreadnought, and luckily he failed that. But when like he's saving dice on like 4s and 5s, and he's got 20 something to make, and only 9 go through, you're like, Yeah, it was disappointing because everything I hit him with just bounced. Like there was another, like one of his other dreadnoughts, successful wounds. These are like 4 void lance shots, 3 overcharged disintegrator shots, and 2 overcharged hex rifle shots, all successfully wounded. So all of them would have been on his 4+ invul save, and he didn't take a single point of damage. He passed every single one of them.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah. So yeah, overall, I did make some mistakes in the game, but I don't think I think that was one of the rare occasions, and I don't like to blame dice, but in that one, I did feel like there was a lot of point swing moments in the game that were in Jamie's favour purely because he rolled way above average on his saves, and it really scuppered me. Yeah, and then on top of that, the clock became an issue towards the end of the game. Not that I think it really would have made any difference, but it just bugged me a little bit that it was I was running out of time, and I never run out of time in my games. Like I always have loads of time left, so it was just there was loads of questions and pernickety like things going on, and it just wasn't a very fun game, if I'm honest. Yeah, but. So I ended up losing that one. It was a close loss. I think it was like 66 to 62 or something like that at the end of the game. So as I said, like those two occasions when it could have been a 7-point swing back in my favour would have made a huge difference overall in the game. But what it is, that's just the way the game goes sometimes. So I ended the event with 3 wins and 2 losses and came 10th overall, which is amazing, really. Yeah, like yeah. Considering the field as well, like obviously it's very stacked field with very, very good players. So I'm happy with that result. I'll take that, especially with considering in hindsight, Captain Hindsight, my list was pretty rubbish, if I'm honest. It was not very good. I don't really know what I was thinking, but yeah, it is what it is.
You should be very happy. The real man from Mitches going up against this shark pool players.
Yeah, taking it out to them. But yeah, so it's nice to know. I think my overall impression of the event was I wouldn't go back, if I'm honest. Sorry, Zach, if you watch this, I doubt you do, but it wasn't my cup of tea. Mixing with those kind of players, like a few of them I got on really well with. Like Mike Costello from the Vanguard Tactics crew, he was a lovely bloke, gave him a lift home. Kyle, my turn 2 opponent, James, my game 4 opponent, got on really well with. Ben, like in game 3, I happily play him again. He was very good. I don't want to play David again. I don't want to play Jamie again. And I think I experienced from other people just not. I don't know. I suppose it's competitive 40k, and some people enjoy playing it like that. But for me, it's not. It's not the way I enjoy playing it. It just takes the fun out of the game. And that's what
like when you get to that level on these like big events, really these players you're used to going at these events all the time.
Yeah,
this is like what they're used to, I imagine it. So
yeah, it just really like nailed home like the people that do this kind of thing like all the time, like they're in it to win it, and that's fine. Like that's their business. They that's what they want. That's how they get the most enjoyment out of the game is by winning the game. It's never really been like that for me. I like winning, don't get me wrong, like everyone likes winning, but it's not the main like goal for me. The main goal for me is to create like moments in games that you remember, or like learn from things, like learn from mistakes, learn from gains, like and get to know the person and like have a common ground, because like the common ground normally is that you're all nerds. You'll like love 40k lore and the models and sometimes painting and all that kind of stuff. So I think like the Unconquerable event, whilst the idea of it was good, I just don't know if I really enjoyed mixing with that kind of level of competitive player. I think I'm more comfortable with like just going to sort of more open format tournaments where you have a huge like pool mixture of people that could be all from like the very, very top to like they've just gone to an event for the first time and they're borrowing their dad's army or something and they don't really know how to play. But I love playing people like that, and I love like talking them through things and helping them out, and like that's the kind of thing I love to do. And like whilst it's satisfying that I know I can like go toe to toe with that kind of level of play, which is great, a big ego boost. Like I'm as good as I think I am, which is great, but it's not.
It
I
puts
didn't
more,
enjoy it.
it puts more pressure on yourself as well. That
Yeah, and that doesn't help. That doesn't help with like my
you need to be that focus, planning.
yeah
It's a lot of mental things on yourself as well.
yeah it
Like
is. And
standing up for a tournament casually. Well, let's try it and see what happens.
yeah, and there's the pressure and stuff as well. Like I'm sure that's probably one of the reasons why David became quite negative towards the end of our game, because he realized that he could lose the game if he didn't do something special. And obviously I learned afterwards that he was on quite a significant win streak at events. He was on like sort of 20 30 games or something silly, like which is insane, like undefeated. So then to suddenly be possibly losing against like a relative like unknown must be like, oh, what? Like this and this, you can't be used to it. And it puts pressure on you, because when you're at the top, like everyone's gunning for you, and he's literally at the top, like he's literally the best player in the world. So everyone's gunning for him, like everyone wants to beat him, so they can brag about it, like I'm doing right now. Like so, it's like, and yeah, that pressure can't be easy to handle. I know I wouldn't want it. Like it would be really tough. But
I get that from all lot.
yeah,
It's a fucking snap. Oh, you can't beat one.
yeah. That's what you do when you put yourself on the top, mate. When you put the crown on your head, everyone wants the crown. But
Crown of dicks.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was like a reasonably well run event, like they always are with Zach's events. But I can't honestly say I would return to the Unconquerable. The Beyond Battle Ready though, that looked really interesting to me. Like that looked that was the one that Paulie went to, which is the painting one.
Yeah.
And the armies that were on display were absolutely gorgeous, like really, really nice. And they played a sort of more narrative kind of mission where there was like a map and you could take territories depending on when you won, and all the boards were like different, so they weren't like LGT like terrain, like competitive 40k terrain. They were like themes, like there was like a rock one, there was like a city fight one, I think there was a Necron one, I can't remember, but like yeah, they were all like thematic boards. That for me is more like what I enjoy about 40k, is the immersion, and the play style of the players that went there was much more akin to my kind of play style, where they had like competitive armies, like they played like good 40k, but they also had a really firm grasp on understanding of like the narrative and the lore and like the story of it. And I had some really good conversations with them in between games, like particularly Jay from Mohawk Miniatures, and Dan, who has like a gorgeous Harlequin army. And we're talking about like painting techniques and talking about like the lore of like everything, and it was just good. And I came away feeling like I would definitely go to that again. I would definitely go to that if I had the opportunity, but I'm not sure I would go back to the Unconquerable.
Jay won it, didn't he?
He did. Yeah, he went 5-0 with his knights. So yeah, I think he won best overall because he came very high in the painting award. I think he may have even drew on votes for best painted along with Dan and his Harlequins.
The Harlequins that one painted, is it? For his Necrons, no?
No, I think it was the Harlequins won best painted, and then there was a best theme award, and that went to I think his name was Rob, and he had a Creations of Baal army, and it was absolutely gorgeous because every model was like painted to a high standard, but also every model was customized in like some way, in some sort of like weird, freaky, like I've got a crab claw instead of a normal hand holding a bolter, and it was, yeah, it was really, really thematic, well painted, very concise. Like the army, it looked like an army. And there were some really cool character conversions. Like he had the what's that new model from the Delac, the Psycho with the big brain and like the things stabbing him in the head. That was so there's a new model for like the Necromunda Delac squad. So he had that head on like a chaos body like floating, and that was his like master of possession, and it looked amazing. It looked so good. Everyone was like painted like white, so they almost looked like they were wearing lab coats, like sciencey lab coats. It was a really cool army, and yeah, so I would definitely, if any of you out there, if you're a painter like me, and you manage to do well at one of these UKTC events and you get an invite to this, don't hesitate to go, because that event looks really, really fun. And you can play competitively, like people did bring competitive lists, but it looked like everyone enjoyed it and had a good laugh with it. And that to me is much more important than seeing who's the best, or like, yeah.
Good.
So yeah, so there you go. And on top of that, mate, I took your name with me, didn't I? I ditched the Real Space Raiders and I took Bugle Bat Reps, but I don't know if it's gone on the rankings yet. I haven't looked.
I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it either. I think it's a bit weird because of the pod system. I'm not sure how it works, but we'll have to have a look.
Well, onwards, we got LGT end of month, haven't we?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that actually, because there's a lot of us going up, aren't there?
Yeah. I think it's only 4 of us now. You, Paddy, me, and Ben. Some people
I thought John was going. Wasn't John going?
John and Graham have both dropped out.
Oh, that sucks. Oh well, at least there's a few of us going, so we can hopefully.
It's good last year, also.
No.
It was a good time last year, so I'm looking forward to it again.
Yeah, it was, to be honest. I was skeptical about LGT, but it was good because there was so many people there, and so many people that I meet on like Instagram and other social media platforms, that it was really great to put a face to.
Yeah.
Like shout out to like Darren Tang, like we haven't seen each other. Hopefully we'll see each other at LGT. Sam, like if you're watching, hopefully see you at LGT. I know a few of the people that went to Unconquerable are also going there, like obviously because it's worth loads of points if you win it.
Yeah.
Or if you even place highly in it, you get loads of points. But everyone loves those lovely numbers that mean literally nothing, but you know, they're numbers. Yeah, I think that's yeah, I'm looking forward to that. My list is going to be very, very different. The Void Ravens, unfortunately, I'm using them this weekend at the Curton Carnage that Paddy bought tickets to. Forgot to tell me. Then he remembered the day before list submission and said, we're going to this, you need to put a list in tonight. And I was like, and at the time I was submitting my list for the Unconquerable, so I was just like, I'll just copy and paste it into both and just go, there you go, that's my list for both, fine.
What team name are you under?
I don't know. Paddy sorted it out. I don't know. I'll try and find out for you, mate. But if I'm not Bugle Bat Reps, I'll change my name. I'll change it to Bugle Bat Reps.
Get those points.
But don't expect anything glorious out of this, mate. And I'm not sugarcoating it when I say that list is not very good. Unless I roll the same as I did against James in the Necron matchup, then it's an extremely powerful list and probably completely broken. But that's just because if you roll 6s, you kill everything.
What's it called? Before we all finish up, what are your thoughts looking at LGT? Because obviously Demons has just come out.
Yeah, I think Demons look interesting. From what I've seen, I don't think they're going to come in and stomp the meta. That is a gorgeous Be'lakor. Look at that guy, all red and glorious. Are you taking the Demons to LGT?
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, you should. I think Demons are really good. They've got some really interesting things. They've definitely had a glow up data slate wise. Like the greater Demons are great. Like you can make some crazy things with them. Be'lakor is nuts. Like he is the best thing in the book. And it's not even close. Like so I think like competitive like chaos lists, you will see Be'lakor every time.
Yeah.
Because he's just that good. I'm not confident they're going to like wreck face. I think they would struggle a little bit into Tyranids, like Leviathan warriors and stuff. The transhumans really painful, and just the volume of high strength attacks.
Yeah.
And they can still do mortal wound output, which bypasses your demon save still. So yeah, and their secondary game is not amazing. It's okay, but then Tyranid secondary game is not brilliant. Like, but they still batter the hell out of people. So I may just be talking rubbish.
One thing to mention, though, in this codex, you can't have like additional war traits and stuff like that. You literally just have war traits.
it's really weird, isn't it? I wonder if that's a
From what I've
premonition
seen,
for.
the dwarfs again have the same.
Oh, maybe that's future proofing for.
Next data ballads, we lose additional war traits.
Maybe they might be future proofing for a new edition.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know.
I think demons are getting slipped through like the gap because obviously
they will. I mean, there's a few. Yeah, I think the next balance update they'll address Necron secondaries. They'll probably look at Tyranids again because they're still dominating everything. Sisters may get touched a little bit, but not. I don't think they'll get touched like that much. And I think creations of bile are going to get hit. The fight on death is just too strong. It's so good, and it just leads to these really like uninteresting, uninteractive matches where you can't trade into them because they fight first. They fight on death. They're like +1 strength and move, and yeah, they're just not a particularly entertaining army to play with or play against. I don't think, but yeah, so I think that'll be it. Hopefully, drukhari get core back on their Talos. If I get core back on Talos and Kronos, I might bring them back for LGT this year. But at the moment, it's looking more along the lines of grotesques, a few racks, Hellions. I want to run double Hellion blob, and the normal characters like Incubi, Drazar, Archon, Succubus, that kind of thing for me. But yeah,
nice. I think that about wraps it up for this one.
Yep.
Obviously, if you want more drukhari goodness, go check out Real Space Radio's podcast.
Yep, we're hopefully recording a new episode soon to discuss the event and discuss our LGT plans. I think we're looked in to try and have a chat on Sunday or Monday as a recording. So stay tuned for that. So we've had a bit of a break, but we're hopefully going to get back into it very soon.
And if you want to see George in action, go back and watch the Battle Bugle season 2.
Yeah.
In multiple games.
Yeah, I haven't watched mine and Martin's game yet, but I'm interested to see the chain reaction of explosions on video because that was pretty stupid when it happened, and the fact that I predicted it was even worse. But yeah, that was a good game, and I'm happy with the way it went. I hope it comes across. But I guess if any of you have any other questions about like my list or what I faced or my overall impressions, feel free to message me on Facebook or Instagram, and also put in the comments in the YouTube video. I will look at them every now and then just to see. And I'm sure if there's something relevant, Martin will poke me and prod me and tell me to go and answer it as best I can because he's a social media guru. Yeah. So feel free to ask away. I'm happy to answer anything you have.
I do. Well, cheers for coming on, George.
Yeah, sorry, mate, my pleasure. It beats driving down anyway, this Skype business. Good old technology. Yeah,
George does live a bit of distance away. That's what it's like.
Yeah.
But yeah, that wraps up for this week. So make sure you check out our weekly battle ports every Friday. Until next time, cheers and go on.
Cheers, bye.